Breaking news tonight, police here in New York City naming a person of interest after a shooting on a subway train. Passengers fleeing the smoke-filled car after police say a man inside put on a gas mask, set off smoke canisters, and opened fire during the morning rush hour. At least 10 shot, 13 more injured. The race to escape, victims collapsing, fellow riders giving first aid. The suspect fleeing. Police recovering a gun and a bag with more canisters and fireworks. Late today, police locating a U-Haul van that may be linked. What investigators have just revealed. Also tonight, inflation hitting a new 41-year high. Gas prices up nearly 50%, food up 9%. The move President Biden announced today aimed at easing pain at the pump. And President Biden, for the first time, accusing Vladimir Putin of genocide as Putin says peace talks with Ukraine hit a dead end. COVID cases on the rise in the U.S. Dr. Anthony Fauci on the return of mask mandates. Tracking severe storms, alerts up in 22 states across 1,000 miles. Al Roker joins us. And Al's exclusive one-on-one with Barack Obama. What concerns the former president ahead of the midterms?
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening to our viewers in the West. We're coming to you tonight from Brooklyn, next to the subway station that today became the site of a mass shooting. Bullets flying, obscured by a blanket of smoke that filled a train car. Cell phone videos capturing the panic and confusion. Commuters running for safety, others hobbled by bullets. Fellow riders rendering first aid. At least 29 people were treated for injuries, 10 of them for gunshots. Tonight, 5 victims are listed as being in critical but stable condition. The shooting striking at the worst fears of millions of New Yorkers who ride the subway every day, a rush hour attack. The suspect described as donning a gas mask before opening 2 smoke grenades and firing 33 times. A 9mm Glock handgun was recovered at the scene along with a bag filled with canisters and fireworks. Police have identified a person of interest, 62-year-old Frank James, who rented a U-Haul police say was connected in the shooting. Now the question, was he the gunman? The New York City Police Commissioner says authorities are not investigating the shooting as a terror attack. So what was it? Tonight we hear from witnesses as the manhunt holds this city in nervous suspense. At 8:24, the morning commute turned to complete chaos. A gunman opening fire on a crowded rush hour train in Brooklyn. Panicked passengers rushed off subway cars. The injured lay on the platform. Blood everywhere.
I saw maybe a 16-year-old kid. He was sitting on the steps coming out the train station, and he had a bullet in his knee.
That's the sort of terror that I haven't seen before since 9/11.
Police say the suspect was on this Manhattan-bound train as it pulled into the 36th Street stop. They say he put on a gas mask, then opened 2 canisters with smoke.
He then opened fire, striking multiple people on the subway and in the platform.
You can hear that gunfire in this video from the next car over, where Kenneth Footsmith was headed to work.
We hear a loud bang and then followed by lots of screaming, and we see white smoke starting to billow and fill up the train car, and people running at the doors that separate the train cars and banging on them, screaming for help, almost like a horror movie.
Conrad Adderer was in the station.
Guy just came up to the station booth, and he was his legs were bloody. I basically made the decision to get out of there.
Tonight, the NYPD says they have identified a person of interest, Frank R. James, with addresses in Philadelphia and Wisconsin. Officials say a U-Haul key found at the scene led them to James. A massive manhunt is now underway to find him, though officials say they don't know if he has a connection to the subway shooting. The suspect left behind a 9mm gun, a hatchet, and this backpack filled with smoke canisters and fireworks. Law enforcement sources tell NBC News the station's surveillance camera was not working. Officials don't believe the gunman said anything as he opened fire and say so far there's no indication of terrorism.
We do not know the motive at this time, but we're not ruling anything out.
At least 29 people were injured, 10 with gunshot wounds. According to the NYPD, all of the victims are expected to survive. Sunset Park is a vibrant, diverse neighborhood, home to many Asian and Hispanic residents. The incident comes as the city grapples with rising crime, a major issue for the city's new mayor, who is currently quarantining with COVID. As a New Yorker, as a former cop, you know the risk of these subways, the vulnerability of these subways. Can they be properly secured?
Yes, they can. We have done it, and we will continue to do so. We are going to have a doubling of our patrol strength in the subway system.
Tonight, the governor saying enough is enough.
It has to end, and it ends now. And we are sick and tired of reading headlines about crime, whether they're mass shootings or the loss of a teenage girl or a 13-year-old. It has to stop.
Let's get more now on the suspect and the manhunt. Tonight, authorities have identified a potential suspect and are appealing to the public to help track him down as they examine every piece of surveillance video they can find. Ron Allen now with that part of the story.
Police swarming the scene of the attack as the massive search for the gunman expands.
This person is dangerous. They're asking individuals to be very vigilant and alert.
Officials are pleading for the public's help and late today announced a person of interest.
The suspect is a dark-skinned male and was wearing a neon orange vest and a gray-colored sweatshirt.
This afternoon, investigators found a U-Haul van a few miles from the scene of the attack. They connected the vehicle to the suspect based on materials recovered at the scene, including a key to the U-Haul that were apparently left behind by the gunman. The bomb squad searched the vehicle.
We cannot lose sight of victims in this city. We will use every resource we can to bring those to justice who continue to prey on the citizens of New York.
This has got to be one of the largest manhunts this city has undertaken in a long time.
I think that's an accurate statement.
Former Police Commissioner Dermot Shea says police will do everything they can to find the gunman.
From forensic collection to interviews of witnesses to deployments in the area to mining data, hopefully it all comes together sooner more than later.
Tonight, police identified a person of interest, 62-year-old Frank R. Jones, with addresses in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Police say they found the keys to a U-Haul van at the crime scene and traced that to their person of interest. Tonight, authorities still say they have no idea why the gunman carried out this attack. Lester?
Okay, Ron Allen, thank you. Now to a new report showing inflation is soaring even higher. Consumer prices skyrocketing 8.5% last month from a year ago. The average American household spending $327 more last month for the same goods and services by one analysis. Kristen Welker with more now from the White House.
America's unrelenting inflation crisis keeps getting worse, with today's news that it's accelerated to 8.5%, a 41-year high. Prices surging across the board. Gas prices up 48% over last year. Food prices jumping nearly 9%, including meat, poultry, fish, and eggs spiking nearly 14%. Housing costs surging too, with rents up 5%. In Pennsylvania, school bus driver Renee Schultz says soaring grocery bills have left her struggling to feed her family. Now she's turning to a food pantry.
It's made it difficult. Sometimes you have to make a choice on, what bill's going to not get paid so that you can make sure that you got food on the table.
And in California, plumber Louis Ray says the cost of parts have surged 40 to 60%.
What's the toughest part about this moment and the increased prices?
The toughest part is just not knowing what the future holds. Actually, I'm not just a business owner. I'm a human being. I have a household. I have a car note.
And today, a new government forecast predicts gas prices this summer will be the highest since 2014. Today in Iowa, President Biden saying he's boosting the sale and production of ethanol-blended gasoline as a way to alleviate pain at the pump, and again blaming Vladimir Putin's Ukraine invasion.
I'm doing everything within my power by executive orders to bring down the price and address the Putin price hike.
But in reality, inflation has been soaring above 5% for nearly a year. And our latest NBC News poll shows just 6% of Americans blame rising prices on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. 38% 28% blame President Biden and his policies. Today, the president facing criticism from Republicans and a key Democrat, Senator Joe Manchin, writing, the Federal Reserve and the administration failed to act fast enough, calling the response, quote, half measures.
But the White House is touting signs of economic strength, including good jobs numbers, a low unemployment rate, and a 23-cent decline in gas prices over the last month. Still, all of it overshadowed by soaring inflation. Lester.
All right, Kristen Welker, thank you. And in those remarks on inflation today, President Biden referred to Russian President Putin's actions in Ukraine as genocide, a term the White House previously avoided using. Gabe Gutierrez reports from Ukraine tonight.
Every day since Russia's retreat, new atrocities are being revealed. This is Makariv, about 45 miles west of Kyiv. Russian forces took the villages surrounding it, but were held back from the city center by Ukrainian soldiers. This man, who asked us not to show his face, is one of those defenders. Today he showed us what's left of this apartment that authorities just searched for the first time.
The rocket tore through this wall and landed right here in this kitchen, the whole apartment incinerated. Neighbors say an older woman lived here, and sadly her remains are still in the other room.
So far, local officials say they found 130 bodies here. Late today, while talking about inflation, President Biden calling Russia's actions genocide.
None of it should hinge on whether a dictator declares war and commits genocide in half a world away.
And now there's growing concern about an unconfirmed report from the Azov Battalion, part of the Ukrainian National Guard, accusing Russia of using a poisonous substance of unknown origin in Mariupol. The Ukrainian government, the U.S., and others are now investigating if a chemical weapon was used. While today, Russian President Vladimir Putin said peace talks with the Ukrainians had reached a dead end. He also insisted his main goal is to help the people of the eastern Donbass region. Tell that to teacher Katerina Hetz back here in Makariv, who showed us how Russian rockets shattered her world in her music classroom.
The destruction stretches for miles. This was a kindergarten. It was shelled at least twice. Clearly not a military target.
Fortunately, none of the children were here at the time, but Katerina told us Russian troops shot and killed a janitor as he tried to escape the city with his family. I get angry, she says. The Russians don't realize what they're doing. Today, Putin claimed his soldiers' mission was noble. So how does he explain this?
And tonight, a senior U.S. defense official says that 8-mile-long Russian military convoy is still heading east, an ominous sign of what's to come. Lester.
Gabe Gutierrez in Ukraine, thank you. Now to the rise in COVID cases in the U.S., just as millions prepare to gather for Passover and Easter. Dr. Anthony Fauci tonight on why cases may be dramatically undercounted and the return of mask mandates. He spoke to Miguel Almaguer.
Following the trend of previous COVID waves that have washed across the nation, tonight pockets of the Northeast are again seeing the most significant spike in new infections. While the numbers are nowhere near Omicron's surge and authorities do not expect hospitals to be overwhelmed, the massive decline in testing and unreported results from home kits may be skewing the real rise in cases.
It certainly is being undercounted, Miguel, because I mean, I know people myself who have no symptoms or have mild symptoms, get tested, it's positive, they stay home the way they should, but they don't tell anybody.
With infections up 15% nationwide, the daily case count is still just a fraction of January's. But in Philadelphia, where mask mandates return next week, local officials fear the start of a new wave.
There may be a surge in cases, but if you note, there's a very, very small chance of a person who's vaccinated and boosted of going on to a severe outcome.
Do you think Americans would be willing to accept the return to mask mandates?
I think that would be a problem, Miguel. People are so fatigued and tired of COVID that they just don't want to go back. The only thing we can do is to just try and encourage people that this will end. This will not go on forever.
Tonight, a weary nation facing an enduring pandemic. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
In 60 seconds, Al Roker speaks exclusively with former President Obama on the challenges President Biden faces. And Al will have the very latest on the next wave of severe and dangerous weather. From inflation to the war in Ukraine, voters have a lot on their minds as we race toward the midterm elections. In an exclusive interview, Al Roker asked former President Barack Obama about the historic headwinds Joe Biden faces this fall.
What do you think is going to happen in this midterm election?
Well, it's too early to say. I think the Biden administration has overcome some extraordinary circumstances. COVID, the economy, and now most recently Ukraine, and they have handled the policy right. But look, understandably, people feel exhausted by COVID. That's going to dampen the mood of a country. Inflation is a real issue. A lot of it is having to do with the COVID and supply chains, and now Putin's gas tax, essentially, by virtue of his invasion of Ukraine. But the underlying economy, there's a good story to tell. Democrats have to go out there and tell the story. But ultimately, the voters decide on this thing. Al will have much more of his interview with the former president in advance of his Netflix project tomorrow on Today. And Al joins us right now for what could be another dangerous night of storms. Al, where's the risk tonight?
Well, Lester, as we look at our live radar, you can see tornado watches stretching into Iowa all the way down. We've got tornado watches in Texas, severe thunderstorm watches as well. So for tonight, 45 million people at risk from Waterloo, Iowa, down to Austin, back to Little Rock, Jackson, and New Orleans. Hail, damaging winds, tornadoes, which will continue tomorrow for 56 million people from Chicago, Detroit, down to New Orleans and parts of Houston. Again, strong tornadoes possible. And if that's not enough, we've got winter weather advisory, storm warnings, and blizzard warnings for the plains, where we've already seen 24 inches of snow in parts of Montana, upwards of 36 inches before it's all over. Winter not quite done yet, Lester.
Okay, Al, thank you. And up next, what could be a difficult summer travel season, what you need to know. Are you traveling over the busy holiday weekend? Fair warning, several airlines are still struggling to recover from weather and staffing issues, and flight disruptions might get even worse this summer. Here's Tom Costello.
After weeks of flight delays, thousands of canceled flights, and mounting airport aggravation.
Had a 4-hour delay, so I'm feeling a little deflated and just hopeful that we get there.
JetBlue and Alaska Airlines both say they simply don't have the staff to fly their upcoming schedule. JetBlue proactively trimming its schedule through the busy summer travel season by 10%, 150 flights per day. Bad weather has only added to JetBlue's problems these past few weeks.
People are sick back there. We got to get off this plane.
Forcing some flights to divert to other airports. JetBlue says the safety of our customers and crew members is our first priority, and our pilots are well trained to manage severe weather. Meanwhile, Alaska Airlines, struggling with an ongoing pilot shortage, is cutting its schedule by 2% through June.
For many airlines, their eyes were bigger than their stomach. They ended up scheduling more flights than they were actually able to operate.
Fewer airline seats and higher jet fuel prices mean higher ticket prices. Domestic tickets now averaging $342 round trip, up 35% from last year, up 11% from 3 years ago.
Travel midweek, fly Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you'll get cheaper rates and you'll avoid a lot of the traffic.
Travel pros say now is the time to start shopping for your summer vacation flights. If you see a good price, lock it in. Tickets are only expected to get more expensive. Lester?
All right, Tim, thanks. And that's Nightly News for this Tuesday. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.